Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus, where we talk about complex metaphysical, supernatural types of issues. I am coming to you right now from a hostel someplace here in Kiev, Ukraine. In case you're wondering what kind of work goes into just making what looks like pretty simple videos, this is my third time recording this video due to overmodulation issues when I was recording outdoors a couple days ago. So let's try this again. We are talking about the idea that when you don't have eyes, you can't see anymore when you are out of your body. When you don't have a mouth, you can't speak. When you don't have ears, you can't hear. Instead, we become these phantasms floating around who are incorporeal and vaporous and don't have access to the basic things that we have on this planet. The nature of the ghost, the spirit. And I'm bringing this topic up because this is literally something that a couple of very well-known people in this community have proposed. And of course, as you can imagine, I have a few opinions about this. Before we go any further, if you like this kind of stuff, if you like these types of topics, these kinds of subjects, please go down, hit that subscribe button, as well as that notification bell. Like the video, share the video. All of that helps keep this whole operation going. So, basically, a very popular channeler. I'm not going to say who it was because I think if you've watched this channel, you might know because I've had a few criticisms against this person in the past. Came out a few years ago during a Q&A session with her audience, asking about the physical nature of how we are when we cross over, when we go to the other side. Now, if you follow this channel, you know that a lot of us have experiences on what we call the other side, the astral plane, whatever you want to call it. And oftentimes we have just as much ability as we do on this side. So there is no massive difference in terms of physical sensation or sensory input or anything like that. And quite to the contrary, people who report more advanced experiences, for example, NDEs, sometimes say they have complete 360-degree vision of everything happening around them. So, given this information, it's a little bit odd to come out as somebody who is very influential in this field and claim that when you cross over, you're no longer able to see things or hear things or do any of the things that we used to be able to enjoy here. And it's not just this one very popular channeler with millions of followers who made this claim. There's a medium who wrote a book called, I think it's something like, Do Dead People Watch You While You Take a Shower? And one of the forum members at the Facebook group informed me that she was saying the same thing, that no, because when you cross over, you no longer have physical eyes, and so you're unable to see things physically the same way that we used to do it here. So therefore, no, they would not be able to watch you shower, although they still try. What both of these people have claimed is that because we no longer have any kind of physical apparatus like this, the only thing you can use when you are in the so-called afterlife is a kind of sixth sense. And you use this sixth sense to get a kind of intangible sensation of the world around you and to be able to draw in information. But because you are now a phantasmagoric spirit, you no longer have the ability to have direct input on the senses. And so I'm going to explain to you now why this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in all the studies I do in this area, and why it is extremely irresponsible for these people with a lot of followers and a lot of people who basically go by everything they say to make pronouncements like this. Literally anybody who has ever had a dream experience, a lucid dream, has experienced sight without using the physical eyes. The way this operates on a basic biological standpoint is that there is an external world that exists around us, and our eyeballs basically are camera lenses processing information from that external world, processing the light that is attached to the stuff around us. Our brain interprets that light, and what you end up getting is an image that the camera basically has processed. Now, if you don't have access to the camera, does that mean the external world disappears? No. In fact, if you are able to process that information directly into your mind, then theoretically you would have much greater sensory ability because you would not be going through a third-party device, in this case, the eyeball. So this explains why people who have near-death experiences, who have flatline, have cardiac arrest, sometimes no brain activity, are able to go out of their bodies and sometimes see everything happening around them in like a 360-degree radius before they either go back to their bodies or find themselves in some kind of a different world, a different realm. And I think that even somebody who is a pretty staunch materialist wouldn't support this idea, because anybody who has had dreams has experienced the concept of sight without using the physical eyeballs. So this is an extremely curious position for people who claim to channel information, claim to be mediums, claim to support this area of work to make. Because even a materialist, I don't think, would say something so elementary like sight is impossible without eyes. Now, just so we're clear about what was actually said, the channeler in question, when taking this Q&A session from an audience member that is, said to the effect that when you cross over, because you have no ears, you cannot hear, because you have no eyeballs, you cannot see, because you have no mouth, you cannot speak, and on. But you can still get impressions of things through the sixth sense. So my interpretation of why this very popular channeler would say something like this is because she doesn't really have any information coming in from the other side. So the question from the audience member caught her off guard. I don't think that this person has spent 30 minutes studying actual metaphysical literature, knowledge, and concepts about what happens when we cross over. But because she claims to be channeling a higher entity, she must therefore be an expert in matters about an afterlife, right? And so when caught with this question, she was basically making stuff up based upon her limited field of knowledge and her assumptions, which appear to be quite rooted in materialism. Because again, only a materialist would make the assumption that you're unable to basically exist without the brain-based sensory mechanisms, or at least those sensory abilities would no longer exist. So from this strange position of quasi-materialism, this woman has made the presumption that when you cross over, you're still dependent on all your physical organs here, but on that side, you become this kind of sightless, formless entity who just relies on sixth sense level perception of the world around it. And the author of the book that I mentioned before basically saying something similar, but I wouldn't be surprised if that author is basically piggybacking off of what the channeler said. And the channeler in question has millions of people who listen to everything she says like it's gospel. And so it's quite alarming and quite sad, quite unfortunate when these ideas get spread, which causes grief, pain, confusion, makes people not even want to go into this field because it's no longer so appealing. The idea we become these formless, senseless entities that have nothing in common with who and what we once were. And again, it defies basic logical understanding. A big moral lesson, in my opinion, is don't listen to people who claim to be gurus. If you ever watch this channel and you hear Cyrus basically going into a trance and talking really fast and saying everything I say is spiritual enlightenment, follow me for the path to enlightenment, I will show you the way, everything I say is the truth and the light. If you ever hear me talking like this, then you know I've lost my marbles and you need to find a different channel. You can go down and unsubscribe right away and don't support the work, because you can't speak as absolute truth in this area, especially when there's many conflicting areas of information. And this is one of the things that bugged me the most when I was listening to the channeler making these claims, is because she never said, in theory, or my guess, my estimate, probably, most likely. None of this sort of, critical thinking or scientific style terminology was being used. It was all the truth, the way, the light. This is what I'm saying. It's the absolute truth because I'm a channeler, because I say so. So listen to me. And this, my friends, even if the best intentions are involved by the person speaking like this, they will inevitably create cults. People basically clinging to an idea and reinforcing it amongst each other and then chasing people away who disagree with those concepts. Again, very scary stuff, but it just defies basic understandings on the metaphysical level that we talk about here. Again, I've been out of my body, I would say hundreds of times at this point, and I've never had an issue with not being able to see things or hear things. By contrast, oftentimes these abilities are enhanced. For example, my hearing is not so great. A lot of heavy metal bands or heavy metal concerts when I was younger, permanent ear ringing, issues like that. Thankfully, when I'm out of my body, I don't have those issues so badly. Same with sight. So I do often wear eyeglasses. You don't see me wearing them so much on this channel. If I am out of my body, I don't have to wear eyeglasses. So it's the opposite of what they're saying. These people who are making these claims, they don't know anything about this field. They don't know anything about the real objective information about an afterlife. They're not in contact with any kind of entity that knows what they're talking about. They're basically relying on their imaginations to come up with these ideas, which are contrasted by the vast majority of accounts, perspectives, reports, spirit communication, objective information, all of that. So don't stay up at night freaked out about this. You don't have to send me an email worried that your deceased partner, husband, parent, whomever it might be, is no longer able to see things, hear things, feel things, touch things. And one final point, no, people don't reincarnate because they miss being able to touch things, feel things, sense things, whatever it might be. So that's the other claim some of these oddball sources of information make, is because we become these vaporous, discarnate, I don't know, what they basically Beetlejuice style spirits floating around, or Ghostbusters, slime, or whatever the perspective might be. Because we become these discarnate entities when we cross over, the only way that we can experience the things that we used to love, physical sensation, for example, that we have to reincarnate. Again, it's a whole mythology being developed around this subject based upon what seems to be ignorance. Now, they may be getting real information from real entities. The channeler in question does provide a lot of information that helps a lot of people. Really good self-help advice, if you will. Maybe they are channeling something. Whatever they're channeling, either that the entity they're channeling is coming from a very limited perspective, or they're only channeling 10% of that, and then the rest of it is being filtered through their own mind, their own imaginations. I actually don't trust channeling unless it's deep trance channeling, unless somebody is completely unconscious and there literally is an entity speaking through them. I've seen David Thompson do this, and I was, somewhat convinced by it. And as usual, when you see deep trance channeling happen, then the information tends to be more accurate. Big surprise. Well, this is Cyrus. Thanks for watching. If you like this channel, if you like this kind of topics, and consider buying some books like Understanding Life After Death or The Afterlife and Beyond, both of which are available on afterlifetopics.com or on Amazon, or you can order them at Barnes & Noble. Whatever tickles your fancy, we can help together to spread knowledge about what is likely the closest approximation to the real facts regarding many of these subjects, which is, as a journalist, what I am attempting to do. And if you want to support this work and guarantee that I can spend hours and hours making videos and keeping the community updated and regulated and working on the website and the books, while still being able to eat things and use my physical sensory apparatuses to taste food and be able to swallow it to keep my physical body alive, then consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/afterlifetopics, or sign up to our exclusive classes, behind the scenes with guests, and one-on-one consultations, all that good stuff at afterlifetopics.com/university. And I'll see you guys on the next video.